Welcome back to my channel, Rare Coins Shop. If you're excited about finding hidden gems in your pocket change, you're in the right place. First, we're going to uncover some of the most valuable and rare US coins that could be worth a fortune. Let's dive in. We're talking about the 1960 United States Lincoln 1-cent coin. Now, I know what you're probably thinking, it's just a penny, right? Well, hold on to your seats because this little coin could be worth a small fortune, and I'm about to show you exactly why. The Lincoln 1-cent coin, introduced in 1909, is one of the most iconic coins in U.S. history. Featuring the image of President Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, this coin has been a staple of American currency for over a century. On the reverse side, we have the classic wheat stalks that have graced the back of this coin from 1909 all the way up until 1958. In 1959, the design was changed to the memorial reverse, marking the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth, but let's focus on the 1960 penny. Why is this particular year so important, and what makes it stand out from other pennies that were minted around the same time? Well, the 1960 penny has a rich history tied to the coin's production, and it's in this very history that its potential value lies. The 1960 Lincoln penny is one of those coins that was produced during a pivotal time in U.S. history. The country was in the midst of the post-war economic boom, and there was a major shift in the minting process itself. You see, in 1960, the U.S. Mint made a critical change in the way pennies were produced. Up until then, the coins were made using solid copper, but by 1960, the Mint began experimenting with new techniques, eventually shifting to a more cost-effective copper-plated steel in 1962. However, the 1960 penny was produced in both copper and copper-plated steel that year, making it one of the few transitional years where two different types of pennies were minted. This transition is what makes the 1960 penny unique, and if you have one of the rarer varieties, it could be worth far more than a standard penny. The two different types, one being made of pure copper and the other made of copper-plated steel, create a fascinating opportunity for collectors who are looking for that special coin. Now, let's talk about the condition. As with any coin, condition is absolutely crucial when it comes to determining its value. Most pennies, especially those that were heavily circulated, show significant signs of wear and tear. But coins that are in mint condition, especially those that have been preserved well over the years, can fetch a premium. So, if you happen to have a 1960 penny that's virtually spotless with sharp details, you might be holding on to something special. Coins that have been carefully stored in protective cases, free from scratches or discoloration, are the ones that collectors covet the most, but there's even more to this story. Coin collectors and numismatists are always on the lookout for minting errors, and the 1960 Lincoln penny has its share of these. For example, some pennies were struck off-center, leading to a portion of the design being missing or misaligned. Others were struck with doubled dies, causing the design to appear twice on the coin. These errors happen when the dies that press the designs onto the coin are misaligned or used incorrectly. Minting errors are highly sought after because they make each coin unique. If you happen to come across a 1960 penny with a doubling error or misaligned die, it could increase the coin's value exponentially. Now, let's get to the part you've been waiting for, the value. If you have a 1960 penny in uncirculated condition or one with a rare minting error, it could be worth significantly more than its face value. In fact, depending on its condition and rarity, a 1960 Lincoln penny could be worth as much as $117,000, yes, you heard that right, $117,000 for a single penny. Isn't it incredible how something as small as a penny could hold so much value in the world of coin collecting? Whether it's a pristine copper penny or a rare variety with a minting error, the 1960 penny can be a real treasure, and if you find one in your collection, you may have just stumbled upon a small fortune. So, what should you look for if you think you have one of these valuable coins? First, check the date carefully. The 1960 penny could either be the standard copper penny or the more elusive copper-plated steel version. Next, examine the condition of the coin. Does it look nearly brand new with sharp details? If so, it could be worth much more than the 10 cents it originally cost. And finally, look for any signs of minting errors, especially doubling or off-center strikes. These errors are what can turn an ordinary penny into a rare and highly sought-after item. In conclusion, the 1960 Lincoln 1-cent coin might just seem like another piece of spare change, but it has a lot of potential if you know what to look for. Whether it's the transitional copper variety, the stunning condition, or a rare minting error, this coin can easily be worth $117,000. So, the next time you're sifting through your pennies, take a closer look at the 1960s. You might just find yourself holding a treasure that could make you a small fortune. Second rare coin is the 1967 United States Lincoln 1-cent coin. While most people think of pennies as being relatively low in value, there's something incredibly special about this particular year's coin. Stick with me, because by the end of this video, you'll understand why this penny might be worth a lot more than you thought. Now, let's start by taking a quick look at the Lincoln 1-cent coin in general. First introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of President Abraham Lincoln's birth, this coin has become one of the most iconic pieces of U.S. currency. The obverse features a portrait of Lincoln, while the reverse originally showcased 2 wheat stalks until 1958. In 1959, the design was changed to show the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C., which is what you'll find on the back of the 1967 penny. You might be asking, what makes the 1967 penny so valuable? Well, it has a lot to do with both its historical context and the minting process that took place during that time. In 1967, the U.S. economy was booming, but the country was also going through significant changes in the way it produced its coins. The U.S. Mint was operating at full capacity, churning out millions of coins for everyday circulation. However, as we know, not all coins are created equal. A variety of factors, including production errors, design flaws, and even changes in coin production methods, can all impact the value of a coin. The 1967 Lincoln penny is particularly interesting because, while it was produced in massive quantities, only a small percentage of these coins have survived in pristine condition. As time passed, most of these pennies went through daily circulation, experiencing wear and tear from being exchanged in countless transactions. But what makes the 1967 penny unique is the rarity of finding one in mint or uncirculated condition. If you've ever found a 1967 penny that looks almost brand new, you could be holding onto a true treasure. Another important factor to consider is the minting process. There were certain production errors in the minting of the 1967 penny that collectors are always on the lookout for. Errors such as off-center strikes, double dies, and die cracks are especially sought after by numismatists. These minting flaws make the coin unique, as each error coin is one of a kind. If you happen to own a 1967 penny that exhibits any of these characteristics, you could have something that's far more valuable than a regular coin. Speaking of errors, one of the most famous and valuable varieties of the 1967 penny is the 1967 double die penny. This error occurs when the die used to strike the design onto the coin shifts slightly during the minting process, creating a doubling effect. It makes the image appear blurry or distorted, particularly in the inscription "Liberty" and "In God We Trust." If you find a double die 1967 penny, you're holding onto a coin that's highly sought after by collectors and could potentially be worth a significant amount of money, but it doesn't stop there. Another thing that can elevate the value of the 1967 Lincoln penny is its condition. As mentioned earlier, most coins that were produced in 1967 were circulated extensively, which means they have been exposed to dirt, scratches, and other signs of wear. However, uncirculated coins, meaning they haven't been used in circulation and still have sharp, clear details, are incredibly rare. The 1967 penny in mint condition is not only harder to find but could fetch a price much higher than its face value, sometimes even in the thousands of dollars. Now, let's get to the fun part. How much could your 1967 Lincoln penny actually be worth? If you happen to have an uncirculated 1967 penny in pristine condition, or one with a rare minting error like a double die or off-center strike, it could be worth a significant sum. The market for rare and valuable coins is always fluctuating, but based on current trends and past sales, a 1967 Lincoln 1-cent coin could be worth as much as $98,000, Yes, you heard that correctly, $98,000 for a single penny. It's incredible, isn't it? Who would have thought that a coin worth just 1 cent when it was minted could now be worth that much? Whether it's a perfectly preserved coin or one with an unusual minting error, the 1967 Lincoln penny is one of those hidden gems that's worth taking a closer look at. So, the next time you're sifting through your loose change, be sure to check those pennies, especially the 1967s. You just might have a treasure waiting to be discovered. To recap, the 1967 Lincoln 1-cent coin is a coin that, while relatively common in circulation, can be worth $98,000 if it's in the right condition or has a rare minting error. Whether it's the unique production history, the opportunity for minting errors, or just the rarity of finding one in perfect condition, this penny is definitely something to keep an eye on. Third expensive coin, I'm talking about the 1970 Lincoln 1-cent coin, a penny that, despite being relatively common, has some pretty special features that make it incredibly valuable in the right condition. Stick around until the end, because you'll be shocked to hear just how much this little coin could be worth today. First, let's start by taking a look at the design of the 1970 Lincoln penny. This coin, like most pennies from the 20th century, features the iconic portrait of President Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, designed by Victor David Brenner. But what makes this specific year stand out isn't just the design, it's the historical context and the unique characteristics of the coin itself. In 1970, the U.S. Mint was in the process of phasing out silver coins and transitioning to more affordable materials like copper. As a result, most of the coins minted in that year were made with a copper-based composition. This gives the 1970 penny a particular feel and shine that collectors find interesting. But it's not just about the materials used, it's the coin's rarity and potential for minting errors that elevate its value. Now, let's talk about the rarity of the 1970 penny. While millions were produced, finding one in mint condition is no easy feat. Most 1970 pennies you come across have been worn down from years of circulation, scratched, or tarnished. However, if you happen to find one in near-perfect condition, you could be holding onto a valuable piece of history. What's especially exciting about the 1970 Lincoln penny is the potential for minting errors. A small number of these coins were struck with imperfections during the minting process. These error coins are particularly valuable because they are so unique. Whether it's a double die or an off-center strike, minting errors can significantly increase the value of the coin. Collectors are always on the lookout for these types of errors, and they can drastically boost the worth of a coin, sometimes by thousands of dollars. In particular, the 1970 penny saw a rise in value due to a series of proof-like coins and die variety issues that were released that year. For example, some pennies minted that year showed noticeable die doubling on the reverse side, making them highly sought after by collectors. This double die error occurs when the die used to stamp the image onto the coin shifts slightly during the minting process, creating a second, offset image. Another feature that can make the 1970 Lincoln penny so valuable is its condition. Coins that have been carefully preserved, whether in a coin holder, capsule, or collection, retain their sharp details and original shine. These pennies, often referred to as uncirculated coins, are a rare find. If you manage to get your hands on one of these in perfect condition, you're looking at a coin that's worth much more than just a cent. What also adds to the allure of the 1970 Lincoln penny is its historical significance. The year 1970 was a turning point for the U.S. Mint. It marked the final years before the introduction of the 1971 Eisenhower dollar and other major changes in U.S. coinage. As a result, coins from this time period are often highly valued by collectors who specialize in modern U.S. coinage. The value of a 1970 Lincoln penny in circulation is typically just 1 cent, but that's where the story takes a turn. If you happen to own an uncirculated version or one with a rare minting error, the value can skyrocket. Minted in large quantities, but finding a high-quality example today is quite rare. So, if you happen to have one of these coins, especially if it has any unique characteristics like die errors or is in pristine condition, you could be sitting on something far more valuable than you ever imagined. Now, for the big reveal, how much could a 1970 Lincoln 1-cent coin actually be worth? If you find a coin that's in mint state or has a rare error, you could be looking at a potential value of $66,000. Yes, you heard that right, $66,000 for a single penny. While the chances of finding one in such exceptional condition are slim, the fact remains that this coin has proven to be worth far more than its face value. So, if you're out there searching through your change jar or going through some old pennies, make sure to keep an eye out for that 1970 Lincoln penny. You could have a small fortune on your hands. To wrap it all up, the 1970 Lincoln 1-cent coin may seem like just another penny, but its unique characteristics, historical significance, and potential for rare minting errors make it one of the more valuable coins you might find. If you happen to own one in pristine condition or with a rare minting flaw, it could be worth as much as $66,000. Who knew a penny could be so valuable, right? Especially, we're talking about the 1973 Lincoln 1-cent coin, and if you've never looked closely at this penny before, you might want to after this video. Now let's dive into the world of the Lincoln cent. It's a coin that's been part of American life for over a century. First introduced in 1909 to honor Abraham Lincoln's 100th birthday, the penny has remained a staple of U.S. currency ever since. While the design has gone through some changes over the years, the coin still holds that same familiar portrait of President Lincoln on the front, created by Victor D. Brenner and instantly recognizable to every American. But what makes the 1973 penny different from your average copper coin? That little S mint mark under the date holds a world of meaning. It indicates that this coin was minted at the San Francisco Mint, a branch of the U.S. Mint known especially for producing proof coins. Unlike everyday coins meant for circulation, proof coins are specially made for collectors. They're struck with extra care, often using highly polished dies, and they typically feature a brilliant mirror-like background with sharp, detailed features. These aren't just coins, they're miniature works of art. Millions of 1973 proof pennies were made, but only a select few have survived in truly immaculate condition. And even fewer contain minting quirks or errors that collectors prize above all else. These could be coins with double dies, where the lettering or numbers appear to have a ghost-like double impression, or coins that were misaligned or struck slightly off-center. Errors like these make each affected coin a unique specimen, and uniqueness in the world of collecting means serious value. Now, let's talk about what to look for if you suspect you have a special 1973 penny. Start with the condition. If your coin still gleams like new, with a sharp strike and no signs of wear, it could be considered proof-like or even deep cameo, which significantly increases its value. Next, examine the details. Look closely at the words, "Liberty, in God we trust," and the date. If you notice any signs of doubling, that could indicate a double die error, which is one of the most desirable and valuable types of minting mistakes. Even small flaws or variations can make a huge difference. That's what's so exciting about collecting coins. You don't need gold or silver to find something valuable. Sometimes, the most unexpected treasures are made of copper and found in the smallest denomination. Another thing to keep in mind is grading. Coins are graded on a scale that ranges from well-worn to perfect condition. The closer your coin is to perfect, the more valuable it becomes. A 1973 penny graded as PR 69 DCAM, Proof 69 Deep Cameo, or even PR 70, which means flawless under magnification, is extremely rare and can fetch incredibly high prices at auction. These coins didn't just survive decades, they survived in style, but what really makes this coin such a standout is its place in time. The early 1970s were a period of transition for U.S. coinage. The government was experimenting with different metals and adjusting minting practices, so coins from this era can be full of subtle quirks and differences that collectors absolutely love. The San Francisco Mint, with its special proof production methods, was at the heart of these changes, giving the 1973 penny an even more interesting backstory. So now, the question you've all been waiting for: just how much could a 1973 Lincoln 1-cent coin be worth? Well, if you have a flawless proof coin with a rare minting error, or one that's been graded at the highest levels, it could be worth as much as $89,000. Yes, you heard that right. $89,000 for a penny. It's amazing how something so small and seemingly insignificant can hold such tremendous value. That's why we always say, never underestimate your change. That little coin you barely glanced at might just be your ticket to an unbelievable discovery. Next coin, we're talking about the 1975 D. Lincoln 1-cent coin, a humble penny that could actually be worth a small fortune if you know what to look for. At first glance, the 1975 D penny doesn't seem very different from other Lincoln cents. You've got the classic portrait of President Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, a design first introduced in 1909 to commemorate the centennial of his birth. That image, created by Victor David Brenner, is one of the most iconic and enduring designs in U.S. coinage history. But look closer, and you'll find a tiny letter beneath the date on the front of the coin, a small d, which tells us it was minted in Denver. Now, Denver minted coins are common, and the 1975 D penny is no exception. The U.S. Mint struck hundreds of millions of these coins for circulation. So why is this one special? The answer lies in a few key factors that coin collectors pay very close attention to: condition, rarity, and minting errors. Let's start with condition. Over the decades, most 1975 D pennies have been tossed into pockets, rattled in drawers, and spent in stores. They've been scratched, worn down, or even discolored. But on rare occasions, a coin escapes circulation entirely, preserved in perfect or near-perfect condition. These uncirculated coins are the ones collectors dream of finding. If your 1975 D penny still shines with its original mint luster, has no visible scratches or signs of wear, and sharp, defined details, it could be something truly valuable. But condition isn't the only thing that boosts a penny's worth. Another major factor is minting errors, those fascinating flaws that happen during the coin production process. Believe it or not, errors can make a coin much more valuable. In the case of the 1975 D Lincoln penny, collectors have identified some interesting variations and mistakes that occurred during minting. These might include double die errors, where the images or lettering appear slightly duplicated, off-center strikes, where the design isn't properly aligned, or even die cracks, which can leave raised lines or unusual patterns on the coin. These errors don't just make the coin unusual, they make it unique. And in the world of coin collecting, uniqueness drives value. A coin with a rare and visible minting error can skyrocket in value, especially if it's also in great condition. Let's also take a moment to talk about the historical significance of the year 1975. The mid-1970s were a time of change and transition in America. The country was coming out of the Vietnam War era, experiencing economic shifts, and heading toward the bicentennial celebration of 1976. Coins minted during this time capture a piece of that history, making them especially interesting for collectors who value the story behind the coin just as much as the coin itself. And don't forget about grading. When serious collectors evaluate a coin, they turn to professional grading services to determine its condition on a scale from 1 to 70. A coin graded MS-65 or higher, mint state, is considered to be in exceptional condition and commands a much higher price on the market. If you think you have a 1975 D penny in great shape, it might be worth having it professionally graded. You might be surprised at what you find. So now, after all of this, you might be asking, what's the real-world value of a 1975 D penny? How much could it actually be worth if you found the right coin with the right combination of rarity, condition, and perhaps a minting error? Well, here's the answer you've been waiting for. If you happen to own a 1975 D Lincoln 1-cent coin in pristine condition, especially one with a rare or noticeable error, its value could reach as high as $53,000. Yes, you heard that right. $53,000. For a single penny. It's the kind of surprise that makes coin collecting so exciting and rewarding. Just imagine, a small copper coin you've had tucked away for years could be the key to an unexpected payday. So don't overlook your change. Take a closer look at those pennies, especially ones from the 1970s. That 1975 D Lincoln cent might be worth a whole lot more than 1 cent. Now, we're talking about the 1978 Lincoln 1-cent coin, a penny that might just be worth a whole lot more than 1 cent now. When you think about a penny from 1978, you probably imagine something ordinary. After all, pennies from the 1970s are still commonly found in circulation today. They don't seem especially rare or unusual, until you know what to look for. And once you know the signs, you might just realize you've been holding on to a valuable piece of American history without even realizing it. The Lincoln cent has been around for a long time. First minted in 1909, it replaced the Indian head penny and became the first U.S. coin to feature a real person's portrait. The design was revolutionary for its time, and Abraham Lincoln was chosen to mark the 100th anniversary of his birth. The image of Lincoln on the obverse, designed by Victor David Brenner, has become one of the most iconic in American coinage. It's a symbol of honesty, legacy, and national pride. By 1978, the Lincoln cent had already been a fixture in American wallets and piggy banks for nearly 70 years. The reverse side of the coin at that time featured the Lincoln Memorial, a design introduced in 1959 to commemorate Lincoln's 150th birthday. What makes the 1978 penny particularly interesting is that it came just 1 year before a significant shift in U.S. coinage, 1982, when the mint changed the composition of the penny from 95% copper to primarily zinc with a copper coating. So, the 1978 penny is part of the last era of solid copper cents, and that alone gives it some added historical significance. But the real excitement around the 1978 Lincoln cent comes when you dive into minting varieties, errors, and exceptional conditions. Let's talk about condition first. Most 1978 pennies you'll find have seen their fair share of circulation. They're scratched, dulled, or slightly worn down. But occasionally, you'll come across one that looks almost brand new. If your 1978 penny still has a bold luster, sharp details, and no signs of wear, it could be considered uncirculated. And if it has been professionally graded by a trusted agency like PCGS or NGC, especially with a high mint state grade like MS67 or above, that coin instantly becomes far more desirable to collectors. But what really gets collectors' hearts racing are errors and anomalies. While 1978 wasn't known for an extremely high number of mistakes at the mint, there are still known double die varieties from that year, where some of the lettering or numbers on the coin appear doubled. These coins are rare and can command serious money. Another type of error to look for is the off-center strike, where the design is not properly aligned. These minting issues are considered flaws by the mint, but in the eyes of collectors, they make the coin unique, and that uniqueness can be extremely valuable. There are also die cracks, cuds, and lamination errors that show up on some 1978 pennies. These tiny imperfections can give a coin its own identity, and collectors are often willing to pay a premium for something that stands out from the rest. Another thing that adds value is the mint mark. The 1978 Lincoln cent was struck in Philadelphia, no mint mark, Denver, D mint mark, and San Francisco, S mint mark, usually for proof coins. While most high-value examples come from the Denver and San Francisco mints, the real star is the condition and whether or not the coin has something that sets it apart from millions of others. Imagine finding one of these in your pocket change, or in a forgotten coin jar at your grandparents' house. A single, shiny penny from 1978 might not look like much, but under the right conditions, with the right grade or the right error, it could be the highlight of your collection. And now, the part you've all been waiting for. How much can a 1978 Lincoln 1-cent coin really be worth? If your coin is in absolutely flawless condition, or it features a rare mint error that sets it apart, then you might just be holding a coin worth as much as $50,000. Yes, you heard that right, $50,000 for a penny. That's the magic of numismatics, the world of coin collecting, where the smallest coins can carry the biggest surprises. It's not just about the metal, it's about history, rarity, beauty, and the stories these coins tell. So, the next time you're digging through a pile of pennies, take a closer look. That 1978 cent you were about to ignore might just be the rare gem that changes everything. Last unique coin, we're diving deep into one of the most talked about coins in American numismatics, the 1982 D Lincoln 1-cent coin. Now, don't be fooled by its size or its face value. This little coin is anything but ordinary. In fact, the 1982 D penny is a bit of a legend in the world of coin collecting, and it's not just because it's old or copper-colored. There's a lot more going on beneath the surface, and by the end of this video, you'll understand why this seemingly humble cent has gained such a big reputation, and why it might just be hiding a value that could blow your mind. Let's start with some context. The year 1982 was a monumental one for the U.S. Mint. That year marked a major shift in how pennies were made. For decades, Lincoln cents had been composed of 95% copper and 5% zinc, giving them a heavier weight and that classic copper tone. But as the price of copper soared, it became more expensive to mint a penny than the coin was actually worth. So, in 1982, the U.S. Mint made a historic change, switching to a new composition of 97.5% zinc and only 2.5% copper, applied as a thin plating. Here's where it gets interesting. During this transitional period, both copper and zinc pennies were struck, and they were minted at multiple facilities: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. What this means is that there are 7 different types of 1982 pennies, including both large and small date varieties, and coins struck from both metal compositions. That alone makes 1982 a fascinating year for collectors. But one version in particular has sparked intense interest, and that's the 1982 Lincoln cent made from copper. Wait, you might be thinking, didn't the Denver Mint only strike zinc cents after the switch? That's where the mystery comes in. According to official records, the Denver Mint wasn't supposed to produce any copper pennies after the change. But against all expectations, a small number of 1982 copper cents have been discovered over the years. Some believe by accident, others think they were test coins that slipped through the cracks. Regardless of how they ended up in circulation, their existence defies the official narrative. So how do you know if your 1982 penny is one of these rare and valuable examples? The first step is to look for the Mint mark, located just below the year. That tells you it came from the Denver Mint. But don't stop there. The real test is the coin's weight. A standard copper penny from 1982 should weigh approximately 3.11 grams, while the newer zinc cents weigh closer to 2.5 grams. This tiny difference is critical. If you have a 1982 penny and it weighs over 3 grams, you could be holding something truly special. You'll need a precise scale to measure it, preferably one that reads to 2 decimal places. And if the coin matches the weight of a copper cent and is confirmed to have the Mint mark, well, that's the kind of combination collectors are hunting for. Next up is condition. Like all rare coins, the better shape your 1982 penny is in, the more it's worth. If it's free of scratches, has full details, and retains its original luster, it might be considered uncirculated or even mint state. That adds another layer of value, especially when professionally graded by a service like PCGS or NGC. Coins graded MS65 or higher command significantly higher prices, and let's not forget errors and varieties. While the copper 1982 is already an anomaly, there are even more layers to this story. Some collectors have found small design differences, such as large date versus small date varieties, and even possible die varieties that could increase a coin's value even more. So why does this matter to you? Because coins like this are still out there. They weren't sold in fancy packaging or put on display in a museum. Many of them were released into general circulation and might still be sitting at the bottom of an old jar, tucked in a coin purse, or even hiding between your car seats. This isn't a once-in-a-lifetime auction story. This is the kind of treasure hunt you can start today, just by checking your spare change. Alright, so here's the big reveal. If you do happen to find a rare 1982 Lincoln cent made of copper, and it's been verified by professionals to be authentic and in great condition, then you could be looking at a coin worth as much as $37,000. Yes, you heard that correctly. $37,000 for a single penny. That's the kind of discovery that changes the way you see coins forever. And it's why coin collecting isn't just a hobby, it's a hidden world full of possibilities. Thanks for sticking with us through this deep dive into one of the most intriguing pennies in American history. If you found this video helpful or inspiring, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe for more rare coin stories, and turn on notifications so you never miss a hidden treasure. Have you checked your 1982 pennies lately? Maybe it's time. Until next time, happy hunting, and remember, the next big find could be in your very own pocket.